Hello, and you are back in the Velvet Room with Joker the Fool. This is our 10th episode, and today we will be discussing the filthy smear merchants and how you can't trust them, and how even if CBDCs do get banned, there still is an urgent need to separate the state from money, and you need to be aware of that. So let's get right into it with the smear merchants. So I was looking at Brave News today, and I saw an article from The Atlantic basically associating Elon Musk with his grandfather, and his grandfather was all in on apartheid. I don't know the particular truth about that, but the idea of it is that Elon Musk is someone who is outside of the boundaries of the establishment, too much so, and because of that, he has gained the ire of the smear merchants, the legacy media, where when they set their sights on you, they will do anything to try and ruthlessly destroy you. Russell Brand has been victim of this, Joe Rogan's been victim of this, and this is what's going to happen consistently to anyone who dares go against the establishment, dares to speak truth to power in any sort of meaningful way. You'll get a bunch of articles written about you, men in suits and speaking very formally, deriding you. This is what happened when Edward Snowden leaked everything. You had all these intelligence officers saying this is going to ruin the country, this is going to compromise our national security. So to paint a narrative as someone's a bad person, they're going to pull out all the stops using all the legitimacy that they have. But the good thing is that this is very much so becoming less effective because more and more people are tuning out from the legacy media, from the channels that the senior merchants have complete control of, and more people are tuning into people like Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, who coined the term senior merchants as far as I'm aware of it, and less people are watching CNN and MSNBC or reading the New Yorker or the Atlantic or the Wall Street Journal or all these other publications that are owned by establishment wealthy elites that just want to toe the line. There is a line that's been established. You have to follow it, and if you do not, then you are going to be ruthlessly destroyed by the legacy media. But the fortunate thing, as I said, the ability for the legacy media to destroy you becomes less and less as they become less culturally relevant, right? If more people are tuning into Russell Brand's Rumble streams than are tuning into MSNBC every night, then it doesn't matter if MSNBC and the papers try to cancel Russell Brand. He's going to be just fine, right? And if you are being lied about, having all these journalistic inaccuracies, because you have to abandon journalistic integrity if your goal is just to toe the establishment line, to be the state's lapdog, because it is a system that's based on theft and aggression, right? And that to maintain that means you're going to be acting immorally, which means that the truth isn't on your side. And when the truth is not on your side, then it becomes pretty easy to expose, especially in the information era that we find ourselves in, where the access to information is endless and it's been decentralized to the individual in a very wonderful way. And this has been extremely consequential for the establishment, for the people that the smear merchants work for, right? That's where we're seeing all these problems that they're having, is that they can't control the narrative in the ways that they used to, because people are not getting their news from the man in the suit, from the 10-inch TV box like they did back in the 50s, or such like that. It is stuff on Twitter, or X as you call it. It's just being able to search stuff online, podcasts like the one you're listening to right now, and all the other ones that far more people listen to, and YouTube videos, and all these sorts of things, where basically anybody can give you their thoughts, compile information, and present it to you, and then you can come to your own conclusions. And that's the most important thing with media consumption, is that no one in the media, no one in the entertainment industry or anything like that, where they're producing content, can tell you what to think. They can present you the ideas that you think about, and if you're being presented certain ideas that you can think about, then you're going to come to certain conclusions naturally, and you're going to manifest that into your environment. And when the only things you were being presented with was the narrative that they wanted you to hear, there was a much easier ability to maintain control over things. But now you can just go onto your web browser and you can search whatever ideas you want to. And sure, we've got all this suppression, all this shadow banning, but once you get that first idea in your mind that goes against the establishment, it creates an ability for you to be hypercritical of what they're doing, of all the things they're going out against, and it means that the legacy media loses control the more people go into the independent system, the parallel economy, and it becomes more appealing the more they thunder, the more they bumble things, and that's just going to keep being the case because they are desperate to maintain the little amount of control they're going to have, and they're going to do so many stupid non-headed things to try and maintain that, and it's not going to work, and it's going to blow up in their faces extremely quickly, right? Like the next thing I hope we talk about is CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies. So my co-host of Hump Day Potpourri, Doc, he's big into crypto, and as such, we've talked a lot about central bank digital currencies on his show and how the Fed wants to implement that system relatively soon, starting with the Fed Now system, where you're really making everything these instant digital transactions and trying to get as many banking institutions to opt into that system, and then you basically turn the Fed Now system into a CBDC, and you have every transaction completely tracked online, and of course, every account is basically owned by the Fed, and they can manipulate your money at will. They can manipulate your ability to transact at will. So it's complete economic control, and when they have that system, then it's going to be very consequential in terms of the ability for the individual to have economic freedom, which is a primary thing that I think is going to better society, is to give the individual as much economic freedom as possible, right? That means no taxation, that means separating the state from money, and the CBDCs are the opposite of ushering in that economic prosperity, right? So there are people who are aware of that. There are people who are, like I said, aware of that need to separate the state from money, at least on some level, and as such, a lot of people are against CBDCs, very negative against it. So of course you have Tom Emmer in the House of Representatives being one of these politicians to try and get these political points of saying, let's introduce a bill that bans CBDCs. I don't think he's the only one, but this is, the one in the article I read when I was researching this. And I would say be extremely skeptical of any bill, anything that the government does to ban CBDCs, because let's say a bill does pass for CBDCs to get banned. That doesn't mean, one, they can't just put clauses into it where there's a legal loophole where the Fed can implement CBDCs. This doesn't get rid of the IRS. It doesn't get rid of all the shenanigans that the Fed does with inflation and the money supply, and how they're manipulating the mortgage-backed security markets and all these other assets. And you have the SEC and all these other things that the state does to be an economic actor that's very negative for the economy, right? Because it is based on theft and exploitation, and as such, as if you go into economics, the state is not a producer of anything. They have by taking from other people. So they're always going to extract economic resources from as many people as possible, and they're going to, at least in this country, we have this corporate system where the state and the massive corporations work in tandem to extract as much wealth from the average person as possible. That's why the middle class pays all the taxes. That's why the homeless people are in the situation that they're in, is because the state and the corporations of this country, they do work in tandem to extract as much economic as much economic resources from the economy as possible. And that's going to continue even if a CBDC does get banned, right? The system is a problem, and we're moving towards that. I would say, getting something on the books that bans CBDCs might delay it for a little bit, but like I said, there's nothing stopping them from putting a loophole where they could do this, or they pass another massive omnibus bill that's like, save the kids from the burning buildings acts, and one of the clauses like, hey, we are unbanning the CBDCs, like we did. There's all these nefarious things that the state is going to do to maintain as much control as possible. And as long as that system exists, the state is going to try and maximize the amount of control it has. And economic control is a massive advantage that the state has. Being able to issue money, having such control over the banking systems, taxation, and all these sorts of things. So that is not going to stop, even if CBDCs get banned. And you need to be aware of that, and you need to be functioning in the mindset that centralization of the money supply is something that the Fed and the state is going to want to do, regardless of CBDCs being banned. There might be one or two people in Congress who genuinely see CBDCs as being a bad thing, see the Fed as being a bad thing, and they're working against it, but they are not going to be able to go up against the machine. We need a culture of people that want economic freedom and act as such. And that's what I want you to be aware of if you're listening to this, is that centralization of the money supply in a digital way is coming. And that is something you need to prepare for, you need to be aware of, and I want you to see all this for what it is. It's just more political games, trying to win political points. So don't trust any politician that says, I'm going to ban CBDCs, I'm going to protect you from the Fed, because as long as you're participating in that system, then you're complicit in it, and you can be bought out, blackmailed, scammed, if you're one of those 535 people in Congress, in my mind. And that's what I want you to have in your mind as well. If you're someone who's freedom-minded for the individual, you want to decentralize power to the individual, then you need to be in that mindset that everyone working in the federal government is fundamentally against me as an individual. They're against my individual freedoms, they're against my economic prosperity, and they're against having a strong culture, a strong moral foundation that we can pass on to the next generation, if there even is going to be one, with the way that the birth rates are going. But I think I've gabbed enough on this podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. This was our 10th episode, and we will head out to the outro now. Thank you for being in the Velvet Room with Jokerthefool. Be sure to follow my Substack, velvetroompublishing.substack.com, to read Machine to Man and all my other projects.